Hey y'all, what's up? What's up? So, now that we have Simone's side of the story, let's jump into our case study. So, I know a lot of people thought that it was not a good idea for Rashid or Simone to put this information out there, but being that they are a social media couple, I think it's actually on brand. And more importantly, I think it is really good that they are showing the true complexities and flaws of people and relationships and people within relationships, because with social media we get we get to see the vacations, we get to see the proposal, we get to see all the fun things. But I think this is really a great case study. And it's just really good to see the inner workings of relationships and the shit that actually goes on. So, my first point is going to be love is complex, but it should never be complicated. So, I came up with this theory a while ago. Um, back in the days on Facebook, and I don't know if they still have it. I haven't been on social media in a long time, but I know they had the what's your relationship status, and then they had complicated. So what I did was I Googled the word complex, and complex definition means consisting of many different and connecting parts. Here's the thing about relationships. It doesn't matter how good two people look on paper, separately and together. It doesn't matter how good of a person you are and your partner is. Relationships relationships are complex. Complicated is basically like that relationship status. That kind of means I don't know what I am, or um, there's infidelity and those type of things. And I think we only hear about these main things when it comes to relationships, and we don't hear about the flaws that people have that sometimes have absolutely nothing to do with cheating or infidelity. And I think this is really important because it sparked a lot of conversation that I'm going to get into, of women justifiably feeling like Simone should leave Rashid and never get back with him, right? But then it goes into my point of be very careful listening to outside people in your relationship. I was going to say listening to single people and single women. Um, I'm being careful with that because I think one of the blessings of having single women around you is that single women and single people are still very sober. Now, they can also have jealousy, or they could also just not have the wisdom, which is why you have to be careful. But I do know that they can be coming from a very sober place, so I wouldn't cast them out. I don't want to be the married woman that's like, don't listen to single people. Everybody's opinion should be considered, right? So, what I will say is you do still have to be extremely careful listening to outside sources when you are in a relationship. And here's why. I've seen so many women say, it's a wrap. She needs to leave him. It's over. She needs to never get back with him. And my thing is, we don't know the type of shit that these women deal with. Some of these women don't even know the things that they would have to tolerate and deal with when they are in relationships, right? So you can't just automatically listen into people that's like, oh, leave this person because they did this, leave that person because they did that. Because then you go and make that decision, and then you see that same friend or aunt or sister or whoever in a relationship a couple years down the line, and then you see them tolerate or try to work through stuff that good and well they would have told you, oh, if that was me, I would have been out. But that's how you think when you are not necessarily in a relationship, or when you don't understand the complexities and the nuances of people in their lives. Now, when I say love is complex, it doesn't matter if it's two people from the exact same culture. You could be from the exact same state, the exact same city, you could have been raised on the exact same street, went to the exact same school, elementary, junior high, high school, and still be two completely different people. And that's where relationships are complex, or let me say marriages. And I want to touch on this because let me just say, it could be the Libra in me, but I always try to see things from both perspectives. When people say marriage sounds too complicated, I'm not trying to deal with all of that shit. First of all, I am open to whatever people resonate with. So I would never give somebody a hard time that says that, because the reality is that marriage is work, right? And when people hear that, I remember when I was single, I was like, oh my God, like who would want to sign up for that? Like, why does it sound so daunting? But the reality is, it doesn't matter how good or how logical or how kind or how rich two people are, you are completely different people. And ladies and gentlemen, this is where the complexity comes in, where you hear people say that marriage is work, right? But let's just change the word marriage to relationship. Even if you feel like, oh, marriages sound like too much work, I wouldn't want to do that. Unless you plan on jumping from relationship to relationship to relationship for the rest of your life. And we know under it all, most people would like a long lasting, deep relationship, right? Listen, the reality is, take the word marriage off the table. Let's just say long-term relationship. There is going to be situations, where you are going to really, really, really have to work through something, tolerate something, forgive something, get over something. And let me tell you, I am from Brooklyn, New York. So I was raised in some rough areas, and you guys know the stigma that comes with women from New York, that we're rough around the edges, aggressive, very much in our masculine. And it's true, I've been that person. So my reaction is fight or flight. But because in my single season, and anybody that knows me knows that I'm a celibate for a long time. I was celibate for years. And in my single season, I really did a lot of shadow work, y'all. Like a lot of shadow work. That's a story for another time. But, just the shadow work and things that come up. And I realized that my reaction is fight or flight. And I know that I no longer wanted to be a woman in fight mode. And not fight, like I've never been in any relationships that were actually toxic, while that we were arguing and going through a lot while in the actual relationship. So I'm not saying that I've been in relationships where I had to fight, but I know that with my previous personality, like I had a very strong personality, and it could also be that New York, we have to have a certain level of defense. We have to have a certain level of roughness. And I know that I really, really, really wanted to become a lot more in tune with my feminine side. And I know that word and that term is overused. So I just want to say I wanted to be more in tune with just being a more cooperative, empathetic and compassionate woman, right? Because feminine is such a blanket, like, popular term, and no one ever really goes into what that entails. It entails being able to have conversations with people that you do not agree with. Like, I've literally had conversations with Trump supporters, perfectly cordial, normal conversations. Um, and the Brooklyn in me back in the days, and the pro-black nationalist that I was back in the days would have never went for that. But then once you are just way more in tune with your feminine, um, you're able to have a better life. Just put it like that. Seriously, it creates the foundation for a better you, for more peace, because you're no longer in fight mode, argue mode, I have to be right mode, right? So I say all that to say, women, when we talk about relationships, are you in fight or flight mode? And when do we get out of being in both of those modes? So for all of the women that's like, well, she needs to leave him. Now, while I do agree, she definitely needs to separate from him for a certain amount of time. And I'm not a financial professional in any shape or form. So I think it would call for them discussing with the financial advisor what would be the appropriate timeline for him to have his own consistency, void of Symone being in his life. Yes, I do believe that needs to happen so that Symone can make sure that he is doing what he truly resonates with. Because anytime a person does something for you or for the relationship, it's only going to be temporary, because you want people to do what they genuinely resonate with, because whatever you resonate with and who you are will always resurface. I promise. So if Rashid really gets in that mode of, I am going to do the work, not for you, or not for the relationship, but because I genuinely understand the importance, I think that they should give it another go. And here's my reason. Goes back to the fight or flight. Women, you are going to have to deal with something in men that is not favorable. They are going to have to deal with shit with you that is not favorable. And something that Symone said that I really appreciated, she said that, and I've watched their podcast in the past. I kind of stopped watching, but I watched their podcast. I used to watch their podcast, and Symone can be a lot. She has a big personality, and she can be problematic. She can be problematic, and we all can be. I have a lot of controversial, that word always kicks my ass, y'all. But I have a lot of controversial thoughts, so I get the, being a bit problematic. But I remember one time she made a comment saying something like she wouldn't want to date a guy like if his child is not like attractive. And from what I got from that, and this is not a dark skin versus light skin thing, because I love my melanin, I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm not saying that to be on trend with the melanin thing. Like, listen, I love me some melanin. I'm melanated. My husband is more melanated than me. That's what I love to see. I love to see it. But I do feel like it was kind of like a light-skinned elitist pretty girl, growing up being that wavy light-skinned girl, that she may see the world in a certain way. Because I was thinking like, well, what would a ugly child look like? Is it the little dark-skinned girl or the little dark-skinned boy that may have like a broad nose, like what is that? But anyway, that was off topic. My point was, Symone has her shit, right? So for a man to deal with her, it's like, what is she willing to deal with? And then the question for ladies out there is, what are you willing to tolerate? I know that a lie is a lie is a lie. He should not be lying, seriously, even though we all tell white lies. Like, I just had to fire the tooth fairy, because I told my daughter, like, listen, baby, you got too much teeth falling out. Like, the tooth fairy has other children that are younger than you that need gifts, okay? You've maxed out from the tooth fairy. She says she ain't coming no more. White lies, right? At work, you want a day off? You tell a white lie. But the lies that he told is pretty severe. But then it goes to, he has a character flaw, right? He didn't cheat on her and commit an act of infidelity, because that ruins, like, that is something that is so hard to bounce back from. So hard to bounce back from. But if the person has a different kind of character flaw or an addiction of some sort, not drugs, if it's not drugs, something where, because we know drugs, you can be harmful to people, but he has a financial entrepreneurship deficit. um he has, it's kind of like guys that like race cars, or motorcyclists, right? They have a need for speed. They like the thrill of it all. I feel like his issue is not an issue of, I don't want to say it's not an issue of integrity, because it kind of is, but it's more so a character flaw. And I feel like character flaws are different from integrity, right? Integrity would be something like cheating. Like, that is an integrity issue. Like, it takes way too many steps. And then that means either you're not with the person that you want to be with, or you are with the person that you want to be with, and you are just greedy, or it's just so many things that come with that. That's an issue with integrity. You compromise your household with diseases. You compromise the other woman who may not know that you were in a relationship. But character flaws, we all have them. We all have them. Like, really think about, what is your character flaw? And your character flaw could be something that you really don't think is a character flaw. Because a lot of us want to think that we're perfect, or what we have is not that bad. You may not know how much of a character flaw you have until you actually get in a strong relationship as an adult, or until somebody one day says, you do this, or you say this, and you've been doing it for years, or you've been saying this for years, and then you're like, oh my God, I had such a strong character flaw all this time. So then it leads to my follow-up question, right? Or my follow-up thought. What is Symone supposed to do? And what are women supposed to do? Because in a dating pool, it's like, either you're going to find a man that's most likely going to be attractive, but maybe the sex is not that good, or the sex is great, but as we know, it's usually the sex is great, but he is not the ideal mate in any other way. Or it could be, he is really fun. Like, we all know those guys, right? They're really fun, man. They're very masculine. You get a thrill being with them or being around them, but they can't hold intellectual or deep conversation. They're not serious enough. They don't take you serious. They don't really take life serious. Or then you have the guy that is highly emotionally intelligent or emotionally available, and he might be, I don't know, what could be wrong with him? Oh, he could be not that, he could be not as attractive, right? Very emotionally intelligent, very emotionally available, but he's not that attractive to you. There's so many. So it's kind of like, okay, or you could have a guy like Rashid. He is a great father to his son. He's not a social media father. Like, he gets his child once a month and then he posts photos, and then he's just like, oh, father this, father that. He's actually a great father, and she wants to have children. So that's something to consider, because I need to make a video about this, but quiet as it's kept, a lot of men, especially in the manosphere and the red pill community and all of this stuff, they always talking about women need to choose better. How the hell do you know what kind of parent a person is going to be? Look at the Brian McKnights and the 50 Cents. And okay, 50 Cents came from the hood, so, but that doesn't qualify. You know what I mean? Like, I had my brothers whose father wasn't there, and like, I remember one time my brother, he came to my house and I cooked salmon, And his son called him, and his son was like, his son loves salmon. So just randomly, his son was like, oh, you know, like I want salmon from my favorite restaurant. And my brother legitimately felt bad that he was somewhere eating salmon. And, you know, and his son didn't have salmon, and he was out of the state visiting me. So what he did was he called his son's mother, and he was like, listen, I'm gonna cash app you the money. Can you order him his favorite meal? And he didn't have a father growing up. You know, his father was not around. So it's like when people say, oh, you should know what kind of parent that person is going to be. Being good at finances or having a good job does not mean you're going to be a good parent. Being from the hood doesn't mean that you're not going to be a good parent. Having a job or not having a job doesn't determine whether you're going to be a good parent or not. So in a situation like this, it's like, well, Symone did as best as she could of vetting this man in certain ways. And one of the things is that he is a good father, right? But how would she be able to fully determine that he would go out and be the type of person that would take out a loan behind her back in other people's name? It's like you have to be prepared for some unexpected occurrences, or to find out an unexpected character flaw about your partner. And then you are going to have to accept somebody and love somebody with those flaws. Like, I'm curious to hear what is women's take on this, because like I said, he's a great father. He's not a cheater. She said that he's actually a really good guy, which goes into my next point. You know, when she was like, he's such a good man to me though. And he's such a good man in general outside of this one huge issue. Even when she said, you know, like he, and I'm looking at my notes, he called my mama, like, how can I love her better? Like, he called her mom to find out how can he love her better, because, you know, your mom would know you better than anyone else. Your mom's known you from the time that you was a child. She would know your tics. She knows about your past relationships. The forethought and the kindness of a man. Like, let's be real, women. Let's be real. The lack of effort that these men that you guys are dating are putting in. When you find a guy that actually cares enough to do a gesture like that, but then he has this other huge character flaw, is he really just a throwaway? Should he just be thrown away? Like, what should happen from here? I don't know. I have questions. Let's see, what's my next point? I am checking my notes. Okay, and I also wanted to say that now, hearing her side of the story, I can also speak to the fact that I don't think that he is necessarily a narcissist. And I personally loved the transparency, and not that it throws away everything else, because I know Black women have a tendency, like, once we see a man's emotion or a little softness, we throw everything out the window. Trust me, if you knew me, you would know that I'm not that emotional, and I'm not that sensitive. I'm not that sensitively inclined. I hold people's feet to the fire. Like, I want all 10 toes in the fire until you feel the burn, and you know that this shit burns, and you know how to not burn again, right? However, it's like his transparency, I think, is really important for more men to do. Like, he didn't listen. I watched the video, and I watched it more than once. I seen some women saying, oh, he didn't really take responsibility. He didn't really give an apology. I'm just like, women, stop it. Stop it. You guys are dating men that are doing way less. Like, he did everything in that video that he was supposed to do. He did take accountability. He did not down talk him. And most importantly, he did not down talk his ex-wife, because you have to be mindful of how people talk about their exes, right? Not saying that if your ex did you wrong, you can't say, listen, this is what happened. But he didn't talk bad about his ex-wife. He didn't talk bad about Symone in any way. He took accountability. Maybe he didn't share all the details of what he did, but he gave us enough detail. He did sound remorseful. He is working now, not being an entrepreneur. He's actually working a job. So he is, I don't, I'm just kind of like, I don't know what else we would have wanted a man to do. Like for anyone, that's a hit on your ego. I don't care if people say maybe they want a reality show or whatever the case is. That is a huge hit on someone's ego and a man's ego to come out and say, these are the things that I did in detail. Like, I don't know how well y'all pay attention to body language, and just not like some kind of like professional body language reader, but like just body language and people's aura. Like, that man looked broken, and I know because I've seen it before. And even worse, I have a very close male friend that is in a similar predicament. Like, he's a great guy, but he takes these calculated risks, and he did it with his ex-girlfriend, who actually let him get a certain amount of money to invest. And now the ex-girlfriend is living with him. They're no longer together, and he feels so bad. He's like, listen, I will not make her move out until she is ready, even though they're not together. And the girlfriend, actually, the ex-girlfriend actually moved on. But I spoke to this friend in detail, and I'm saying, I know a very similar situation. I know personally of this happening to someone, and I know when a man sounds remorseful, even if they don't know how to stop. So that's where compassion comes in as well. He knows what he did is wrong, but I think we're judging the fact he has an addiction, and we're judging the fact that he doesn't know how to change course. He doesn't know how to stop. He has a problem. I think he's aware of it now. And certainly we're all aware of it. So the first step is to acknowledge, and he really looked, I don't want to say defeated, because, you know, he did get a job and he is trying to get his life back on track, which is a very short amount of time. So I'm not, you know, like jumping for joy or anything. He's doing what he's supposed to do. He shouldn't get a hand clap for being an adult freaking man in his 40s. But he looked defeated in that video. Like, that wasn't, there was nothing polished about it. He looked like he didn't sleep. He looked like he was crying. He looked like he's completely embarrassed. He looked flushed, like he hadn't eaten all day. And he looked like he was just running off of he probably didn't even know what kind of energy or fuel he was running off of, but he looked defeated. So I really love the transparency to see a man really, really, really get into that bag of like doing shadow work. That's what he did. He basically did a public shadow work video. And I don't know if you guys can point out any other guy who's did something like this. I think it's actually monumental, no matter what the reason. If they're trying to do a spin-off reality show, or if he did it to get in front of the narrative, which, now listening to Symone's interview, she said that she gave him the green light to speak about it. Let me not say that, but she said that she wasn't upset that he did. She did tell him to take the camera, you know, and go record whatever you want to record. And he just spilled his soul. So I actually commend that. And I think it's a great example for men, because I'm like, man, y'all, y'all have to really start spilling y'all souls. You guys are not healing and moving on because you're still trying to justify the bullshit. There's still a part of you that's like, but I didn't hear one but in what Rashid in that video. There wasn't a, I did this, but I did it because, like my friend, my male friend, even when I talk to him, he still thinks that it's justified for him to do these not well calculated investments or risks. And it's like, at this point, I'm like, bro, you're just not good at it. Like, you need to let it go completely. So yeah, that's that. And me saying that, I really think that people need to see the nuances of relationships opposed to just like the glitz and the glamour. Like this, people make hard decisions in relationships all the time. Oh, and another point I wanted to make. What Rashid did, okay, now that we know about the loan, it's kind of cringe, especially that it was in somebody else's name. That's pretty cringe. However, let me say a truth that a lot of women do not want to recognize. And if we don't really come to terms with manhood and who men are at the core, we'll forever be lost and we'll forever be upset. Even if you don't like it, it is wiser for you as a woman to understand it. Like for real, understand men. Ladies, 90% of men will not let their women or their family or maybe even their friends know that they are in financial ruin until they are absolutely stuck and cannot get out, because they think that they can fix it. They think that they don't want to burden you with something that's not your problem, with something that you didn't get him in. So 90% of men, let me not say 90% like I'm a relationship expert, but what I know is majority of freaking men are not going to let you know that they are having financial issues until they absolutely cannot recover. So what Rashid did was on a grander scale. I mean, it's like $120,000, but and he's did it consistently over and over again, but that's because he has an addiction, right? But girl, that's what majority of men gonna do. They're not gonna be like, oh, babe, I don't, my finances right now are, or I don't know how, especially if they got a couple of months to try to pull some shit together. Oh, forget about it. They are going to try and you will most likely not know. Now, I am hoping that, once again, that this was a good example for men to turn a new leaf and realize it is not okay and it's not wise for you to wait until it gets to that point. Because what happened if you don't recover like Rashid didn't recover? Now everything is messed up. Like, could you imagine having a wedding plan and having to tell people that probably already put in their PTO and shit that the date has changed. Now we're doing a destination wedding, and people probably, hopefully nobody already started paying for flights and stuff. Like, it's a lot, man. Like, no matter what we think and no matter what is in your nature, and I'm speaking to men, no matter what is in your nature, honesty and the truth is always the safest way to go. It is always the safest way to go. No matter what, a person cannot say that they did not know. And one of the worst things you can do is not give a person a choice. Even though Symone did know, and this is something that I meant to mention in the first video, before she came out and said that she knew all of this stuff, I was like, of course she knew about his financial history. Of course she knew, about some of his tendencies. Of course she knew. And she was willing to give him grace. And for the women out there saying that, no, I wouldn't have given him grace, I wouldn't have. Why not? What is the better option of choices out there? And how would you know how a person is going to react? Or how would you know that a man in his 40s, 45, he's damn near on his way to 50, would not be in a better place to make better decisions? How would you know unless you went through it and gave him the grace? And let me tell you something, women, one of the worst things you can do, especially when a guy has good characteristics, is not give them some grace, because then in the future, the worst thing is to never know. I believe Symone did what needed to be done, and that was give him grace and give him time, more importantly, to execute. And that leads me to my next point. Do not ever do the work for a man. And, I think, let me be clear, I do believe in assistance, because I don't know, we're just in a time now where where women are like, we're not helping men with anything. We're not helping men with anything. But what about the things that we take for granted, that there's things that we just genuinely don't know yet, and that somebody is going to still have to teach us? I don't care if you're in your 30s, 40s, or 50s. We are students of the universe. We are still students. We are still babies. There is going to be some things that you'll be shocked that you're not great at, or that you don't know until you meet a person or a situation that highlights or emphasizes or gives you that revelation that, oh shit, I didn't know. I thought, I thought I knew this, or I thought I was better in character, or I thought I was more poised, or I thought I was more patient, or I thought I was more feminine. I thought I was more graceful. Girl, life gonna show you some shit about yourself that you'll be like, damn, I got some work to do. It'll fuck you up. It will F you up. It's happened to all of us. I've done a lot of shadow work, and in my shadow work, I was like, oh, sis, that's, ooh, yeah. You got some work to do, sis. You might want to just stay out of the dating pool and just really, really learn, and learn a lot more about dating and mating. But Symone did try to help him. I can't necessarily judge the help that she gave, because the help that you give is it's relative to that person. So with the ADHD, her trying to help out with, first of all, let me finish my statement. With her helping him get his ADHD meds and things like that, and finding a doctor, let's just say we know most men don't give a shit about their health and their bodies. Like, this is one of those times where I'm like, oh nah, men are really from a different freaking planet. Like, we out here dating and marrying aliens at this goddamn point. These men don't give a shit about their health. They don't give a damn about their health. Girl, their balls would be falling off. It would take for you to be like, babe, you got one ball hanging off. Like, you probably need to go to the doctor. They just walk around with just one ball hanging on and just one ball half off. And it's like, they will not go to the doctor until a woman is like, and it's unfortunate. And I do hope that the culture changes as well, because ain't nobody trying to be your mamas out here. Like, it's too much, especially if we got children. Like, go to the doctor. It's not that complex. They even send you like text messages now, like with your routine checkup. Go. However, we know, once again, before you want a man to grow, you need to understand men and their innate natures. Unfortunately, you need to understand it before you can even try to help your partner, because you're looking at it from a woman's perspective. And girl, we from two different planets. I'm telling y'all, we out here dating aliens. We out here dating, getting engaged to and marrying aliens. They from a different planet, girl. But Symone assisted to a certain level. However, my point was, make the man do the work. And I think where she is now is, no, baby, you have to do the rest of this work all on your own. Like, I gave you the tools. I guided you in the direction of what I think you should be doing. Now you have to do it all on your own. And I agree. Never do work for a man, because one, always let them work. Men like to work by nature and like to do things by nature. And if you take that away from them, then they don't have anything but idle time to do nonsense. And it's like, no. Okay, so my next point is, let's see, which point do I want to go into next? Okay, I have about 2 more points and then I'll be done. My second to last point is speaking to men. Women have been, even though, and oh my God, my boobs just want to be free today, and they're not even that big. Stay contained, please. Women have been doing a lot historically. We are the gatekeepers of making sure that you are in good health. We make sure that you go to the doctor. We try our best to make sure that our finances are straight, even though some men are in charge of that. We are in charge for the most part of how the children are raised, right? What programs, what extracurricular activities they're going to be in, what schools they're going to go enter in, and so much more, right? So much more. We need you guys to be at the forefront sometimes of being what we need. We need uplifting too. We need help in areas too. We need men that can be an example to us. And I'll use an example of my fight or flight and the balance that I like between the difference in me and my husband. Once again, because I'm from New York, it could be because I'm from New York, and we are in interactions with so many people that we have to be hyper alert, right? So for me, I can sense things about people very, very, very quickly. And I'm not about that give a person a chance life. Like, if I assess something about you, and like I said, my assessments, people that know me that know my assessments be on point. So if I see something about a person, or if I see something about a situation or an investment, and I'm just like, that's just what it is. That's how I am. Now, my husband is a lot more patient. He's a lot more calm. And you know how people be like, what would Jesus do? Sometimes when I'm ready to tell a person about themselves, y'all, I gotta be like, what would hubby do? Sometimes, because even though I know I'm right in assessing people and assessing situations, it is okay to, even if you just kind of like pull yourself back from people or situations, you don't always have to announce it, right? And even with how I am personality wise, I needed the true term of a gentleman, and somebody that can be more patient than me and kinder than me in certain situations. Because believe it or not, even though I'm a woman, it helps to have an example. Like, can men be the example? Sometimes, like, can you guys bring some things to the table where it's like, oh my God, I'm actually learning this from my partner, because that's something that I need to work on. So thank you for actually being that example, opposed to women having to be the example of everything. You know, we are tired too. We get tired too. We have a lot on our plates at every moment of the day. What can you guys bring to the table? What is Rashid bringing to her table? Yes, he's a good man. I'm not talking about those things, but I'm saying, what is she learning from him? And I'm sure there's things. So I'm just saying this in general for men to know that you guys have to lead in something. Can you guys lead in discipline? So a good example is, sometimes I do remember one of my friends, her husband was like, me and my friend was on the phone, and it was on speakerphone. So her husband heard us talking about like food, and you know, like, I'm big in eating healthy and things like that. And he heard our conversation, and he was like, yeah, I keep trying to tell her to stop buying white bread for the house and the kids, but she keeps saying she doesn't like how wheat bread tastes, or whole wheat, or anything like that. And it reminds me that, ladies, sometimes men do bring things to the table. Be open and willing to learn from that person, or let that person make decisions, or let that person tell you what to do. Like, it's okay for somebody to tell you what to do sometimes, or make a strong suggestion. Like, if your partner is not that open to you telling them what to do, learn your partner's love language and learn to make strong suggestions. But the point I'm making is, men, please be able to bring something to the table that we can rest that we can rest and say, okay, I know my husband is, or my partner is good at this. He has this, whether it's finances, whether it's working out, because we know that's the thing. Sometimes women just don't want to work out and they meet a man. Everybody want these fit, buff men, but don't none of your asses want to go to the gym with him. You know, like, bring these things to the table. Fitness, finance. Can y'all be healthy sometimes? Can y'all bring to the table the fact that y'all actually care about health and wellness? Like, damn, can y'all bring to the table that you are doing shadow work and learning things about personalities? And can you bring to the table that you're watching relationship podcasts and stuff, and hey, let's have these discussions, babe, you know, I want to see how we can be better, or I want to see how we can grow together. Can you guys start being the examples that you want to see, just the way you think that women should be perfect in all of these areas, and bring things to the table? And my last point, I think my last point here is, I love hearing Symone speak kindly of Rashid, because there's still love there. And something that modern women have to stop doing is acting. And it's an act, right? It's a whole complete facade, acting so hard and acting so tough, saying, well, I wouldn't be that kind to him, and I don't know why she's, you know, that's how you know he did a number on her, because she's still taking up for him. No, she already made the decision to separate until he gets his shit together. That is enough. She does not need to bash him. He's never cheated on her. He's never put his hands on her. He's a good father. She said he's actually good to her. What would be the need for her to put that out there in the atmosphere, especially considering that there's still love and there's still emotions there, right? There's still love and emotions there. So stop trying to tell all women to just like be nasty to people when they don't have to. It's not warranted in this situation. Oh, but Symone is also smart now. We've known that she's smart, but I'm gonna tell you what she did that I peeped, right? Her also speaking kind about him and being very feminine in how she talks about the relationship, I think is also a strategy and a bird call. And I agree with this, right? Because we know that the manosphere and the red pill community and everybody, they gonna eat this story up, honey. They are going to eat this story up, and they are going to, this situation is probably going to go viral, and she's going to be on their radar. And at the end of the day, and yes, I'm a married woman, but one of my philosophies is women always stay on. Always stay on. Always try to stay at your best, so that if you have to move on, seriously, I know people don't want to hear this, especially from a married woman. Listen, this world is crazy. Always be prepared. You wouldn't want to be in a job, or you wouldn't want to invest in something and not feel like you're always prepared for a crash. Always be prepared for a crash. Symone is basically putting forth her femininity and her kindness and speaking nice of him, because she knows at the end of the day, if this shit goes viral, she is going to be exposed to a lot of men. And she is doing the wise thing. See, a lot of y'all women, y'all will go on there and be like, oh, this nigga this, and y'all want to show screenshots, and y'all wanted this, and y'all wanted that. No, Symone is putting out a very quiet bird call. Her bird call is, I'm in my 40s. I ain't got no kids. And I don't have a husband. And right now, I don't even have a fiance, y'all. So if I need to move on, the smartest thing I can do, being that this is social media and this is the World Wide Web, is I can present my best self, my feminine self, my caring self. Even though I am an attorney and I'm successful and I make good money, I am also showing other men how helpful and resourceful I am. So if this fool loses out, this is the resume of what kind of woman I am. Okay? Now, Rashid, your ass better hope Your ass best to hope that a man that has his stuff together, all the way together, does not reach out to her, because you will have competition, buddy. And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, especially gentlemen, we should not be taking people for granted. Every moment is precious. Even in marriages, do not feel like you are married and you have hit the finish line. See, the finish line is death. That's the true finish line. Death. Did one of us tap out of this world? Because that's till death do us part. Anything in between that. And I'm saying this, like I said, I know this is a controversial philosophy, but we're talking about modern marriages. And I'm saying this for a lot of the men that are like, see, this is why we don't want to marry modern women. The same way I am telling and prompting women to really understand a man's nature before you try to help him change. You have to understand his innate nature first. You men have to understand the nature, the new nature of modern marriages. And you guys also need to drop this fairy tale fantasy that your grandmothers and your great grandmothers stayed with your grandfathers for love. Who gonna tell them? Which one of y'all women want to tell them why grandma and great grandma stayed? Who wanna? Oh, you guys want me to tell? Okay, fellas. Your grandmama had about 7 kids, no degree, and you had corporate inequality, right? Where women wasn't even being hired or considered for certain positions. Women needed men. These grandmothers and these great grandmothers and these great great grands, they was either getting their ass beat, or their husbands had a whole other family in the neighborhood, or their husband was an alcoholic, maybe a functioning alcoholic, functioning cokehead. What else? What else, ladies? What else we want to tell them that they didn't know? Which part of this bubble do we want to burst? But the women stayed because they did not have anywhere to go with multiple children, no degree, no work history. Where were they going to go? Now, women have resources. Your grandmothers did not stay for love. They stayed, I want you guys to get this point, because they could not leave. Right? They couldn't leave. Now that we have options, I think men need to be, I want you guys to come on to reality with us. Modern marriages are open to women leaving. Men are leaving too. I mean, look at Danae. Look at Miss Jackson if you're nasty. Her husband done chucked her the deuces for somebody younger, and not even just younger. He's just, it doesn't matter why he left. He's just ill. But yeah, women are leaving. And the reality is, men want to say, well, you women, modern women, don't take marriage seriously. Listen, nobody, not even a man, deserves to have to stay and deal with bullshit and be unhappy for years after years after years, which is putting your mental health at risk, which in turn is putting your physical health at risk. Do you know the high rates of autoimmune diseases, and just illnesses in general that people are having that we never had before? Young people having diabetes, strokes, heart attacks, cardiac arrests, you name it. People should not have to deal with something that is going to be detrimental for their entire livelihood. So women are leaving. So the reality is, everybody, even in and especially in marriages, always stay on. On what? On fucking point. Stay on point. Think about it like you are still dating. Think about it like you are still in the race. Think about it like you are still in competition, because you are. You are. Women are not staying anymore if we don't have to. Listen, women are traveling, having a good old funky time. Women are going to trips to islands and getting deed. Like, they are literally, I knew a woman in her damn near, she was actually in her 50s. She had a boo thing in Jamaica. That was her kid's age. Yes, I know there's people that, the manosphere and the red pill community, oh, these women are going over there doing sex tourism to sleep with younger men. Hey, listen, if they live their lives and you guys are not what's the terms I'm trying to find out? You guys are not like in the race in any kind of way, emotionally, physically, mentally, financially. Why not take their retirement or take their good job and their paid time off and go travel, have a good time, not have stress, not have y'all babies and then be stuck home? Like, women are not doing this anymore. It's a different time. It's a different time. So I strongly suggest that everybody take relationships very seriously, especially marriages. And Symone, I saw you on that part, being smart in how you presented yourself for possible suitors. Even though you're still in love, you did the smart thing. Like, don't sit around waiting for anyone to let you fall on your ass, because that's what you did. And then you had to be embarrassed by having your wedding pushed back twice. Could you imagine what the family and friends are like? But yeah, so that was what I wanted to discuss today. I think I discussed quite a bit. I hope that as always, I hope that what I said was well received, and that you guys received it in the light in which I intended, which is really just as a case study. And yeah, to kind of give different perspectives on, certain situations. And yeah, thank you guys for being here. You didn't have to be. And I hope you guys are having a good day. And you'll probably see me again. All right then. Bye.